how you doing? It's Dryden here from Zensport International, and this is part 2 of a 2-part brief look at what we use with athletes, energetic sports psychology when applied for mental game issues. If you haven't already seen part 1, then go watch that first. There'll be a link somewhere on this video for you to click, probably down here. Welcome back if you're joining us for part 2. So where did we leave off? We left off before with spoken advice, and how for the majority of athletes that's all they have, and it's an incomplete mental game strategy. So moving on to the next category available, we have specialized coaching, and again these figures here are conservative, so it's actually probably a lot less than 25% of athletes and teams that use some form of specialized coaching that deals with the mental game and their attitude towards their sport. And this should probably be a bit lower on here in terms of the results and effects that this kind of thing has on an athlete's mental game. It's very similar to spoken advice and what we discussed in the previous video, only that specialized coaching might throw in a couple more exercises, things like relaxation and visualization exercises typically. And once again, this represents an incomplete mental game system, and it leaves athletes with too poor of a strategy for them to easily overcome mental game blocks such as self-doubt, performance anxiety, and low confidence. So moving up the scale of effectiveness, we now move to conventional sports psychology, and again, as a conservative estimate, around 10% or less of athletes and players will be using sports psychology techniques as part of their training and competition preparation routines. Now, sports psychology has been around in a big way since the 1970s, and before ESP, it represents the best thing that a sports professional can have as part of their mental game strategy and routine. It teaches techniques like self-talk adjustment, mental imagery practice, goal setting, and arousal regulation, and it's very effective. Cognitive techniques like these give athletes something other than training to use pre-game and post-competition, and yet despite this, sports psychology still remains an area that's not widely incorporated across mainstream sports. And I think that's largely because the benefits have not been publicized as well as they could be. And also, many athletes and teams don't want to have to use a sports psychologist, and they'll even put off doing so to their own detriment. What I seem to be hearing from athletes is that there's a certain stigma of having to resort to sports psychology, which is a real shame. And it's because of this perception that you see a psychologist if there's something wrong with you, or that they're going to psychoanalyze you or something, which, if you know anything about sports psychology, you'll know just is not the case. So now we move to energetic sports psychology, ESP. And as you can see here, less than 5% of athletes and players are using this, and yet with the addition of ESP to their training and preparation, sports professionals have a complete mental game strategy that they can use for any mental game problem or purpose and get fast, long-lasting results with. And it doesn't matter when they have a negative thought or feel low in confidence. It can be pre-game, post-game, or even in-game. Athletes can use ESP to change their thoughts immediately. And the main reason why this is so much more effective than all of these things is because ESP is primarily a physiological process. So it's both psychological and physical in nature, whereas all these methods only affect and work with your conscious mind at the surface level. With ESP, we can affect the unconscious and the physical body. And why is this important? Well, modern brain science is showing us that thoughts don't just stay in the brain, they travel throughout your body, and that they are physical in nature. So with ESP, this is where athletes can learn how to use the advice that says think positive, or believe in yourself, or focus on the goal. Athletes can now learn how to do that, and it represents a complete mental game system, the best that there is to our knowledge at this time. So let me know your thoughts. What mental game strategy do you have and use in your sport, if any, and what do you think that the sports industry, why do you think that the sports industry in general is overlooking the mental side of the game despite its obvious importance? Go to zensport.info to learn more about ESP and how we help athletes, and stay tuned for more videos. I'm Jayc Dryden, and thanks for listening.